And the mayor's got the gavel, so you can.
We
call
got
when
it.
you want.
You ready? If I could call to order the meeting of the City of Glendora City Council for March 14th, 2023. For the audience here tonight, the City of Glendora utilizes a hybrid meeting format to allow for participation both in person and virtually. If you're here in person, please silence your home. Silence your home. If you're at home, you can silence your home. You're here in person, please silence your phones and refrain from speaking unless recognized. Announce all council members are here and present, and ask that the city attorney read us into closed session.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council, ladies and gentlemen, joining us either in person or virtually. The city council will meet tonight in closed session pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.8 to engage in real property negotiations regarding the possible acquisition of property whose common street address is 1762 Dale Road. The assessor parcel number for this property is printed in the closed session agenda. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thanks, Bill. I'll go ahead and open public comment. And there is no one here in person wishing to speak on public comment. Do we have anybody on Zoom?
I do not have anybody on Zoom and I don't have any emails as well.
Then I will go ahead and close public comment and recess us into closed session. Okay, at this time, I'd like to reconvene the meeting into open session at 7:02 and ask the city attorney to report out a closed session.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council, ladies and gentlemen who may be joining us in person or virtually. The city council met in closed session tonight pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.8 to engage in a further discussion of the possible acquisition of the property whose common street address is 1762 Dale Road. There was a discussion of price and terms and payment for the property. City Attorney's Office provided a privileged and confidential report. Questions were asked and answered. Staff requested, the council, I should say, requested that staff and the city attorney return with additional information, but no reportable action was taken at this time. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you, Bill. At this point, if I'd like to ask if everybody would please stand and join us with an invocation led by Pastor Bruce French of Cornerstone Bible Church, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance led by Don Nolan.
Thank you for inviting me. Would you please join me and let's pray. Heavenly Father, I thank you for the mayor and the city council members. Thank you for their service to the city, their love for the citizens and for all that takes place here. I recognize that they give so much of their time, and I would ask that you would bless their families while they're away. I pray that you would give them discernment and wisdom, that they would have the ability to respond to the needs, and that they would be able to manage the different challenges with confidence, but humility. Father, I also want to thank you for the citizens and specifically those that are here tonight, each of them coming with different concerns and burdens. And I pray that as they share those concerns, that you give them the words and the thoughts to be able to articulate what's in their heart and mind. And I pray for the council members as they listen, that you would help them to be attentive, insightful, and sensitive to those needs, so that each person would feel that their time had been understood and both feeling that the judgment had been fair. I thank you, Father, for our first responders of this city. Thank you for our firefighters and our police and our healthcare workers. Likewise, I pray for protection and care over each of them. I pray that you would give them strength and discernment, that you guard their lives and their families. And then I also want to give you gratitude for our armed forces, for those that are actively serving, and our veterans. We are so privileged with the freedoms that we have in this country and in this city. And I pray for your care for each of them. I ask that you'd meet their needs, and I pray that you give discernment to the agencies, that they would be thoughtful and considerate of each of those that have faithfully served. Last, I pray that you bless this time together, and I pray that each person that's been here would experience your goodness and kindness. I ask this in your son's name. Amen.
Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The agenda is to point out who is wearing green with St. Patrick's Day right around the corner. Karen and I are in the spirit. Michael's sort of maybe there. Mendel and David, and we'll talk later.
And Adam gets a pass.
He's colorblind. He doesn't know he's not wearing green. Yeah. My wife's maiden name is Galuli, and my son was born on St. Patrick's Day. So I'm in trouble if I'm not wearing green every day of the month this month. At this point, does anybody wish to reorder, add to the agenda? Okay. With that, I will go ahead and open public comment. Invite members of the public to address the city council. Speakers are limited to 3 minutes, speaking only once on both on and off agenda items. If you're in attendance, please fill out one of the public comment cards and get it to our city clerk. If you're on Zoom, please raise your hand, use the raise hand icon on Zoom to let us know that you'd like to speak. And with that, I will start with Richard Patton. Hey, Rich, welcome.
Come here today to discuss, I come here today to discuss a couple things that I've noticed in downtown over the last 24 hours. And specifically, that is the restriping, re-signage, and a lot of the new activity that we didn't recognize on Saturday during the wine walk or Sunday cleaning up our shop. I just was shocked to see that there was all the traffic that was going down the street and up the street and not being able to get side by side on some of the other areas that would have been outlets for us in the past. And notice that that it's going to be real difficult unless people want to go on side streets, some of those which don't have street lamps, to park and figure out how they're going to get into town. I am a contractor and just measured out as I went down the street, noticing that some things were pretty tight there, that the southbound lane in between Nelson's and the center area there is 9 feet in width. Any standard temporary construction zone is a minimum to 12 feet. And that particular lane going south is 9 feet, 15 on the north, widens up a little bit further, but it also dips into the parking stalls if you're coming northbound or southbound during that, in that area. And I had a whole thing I wanted to talk about, but I just decided that I'd pull out my wheel and take a look at it and bring out a couple points like that. I would be very cautious to the fact that there are some significant liability issues with how it's painted right now. And I don't understand why it's that way as it relates to just the general layout of it. But I just wanted to throw that out there and excuse myself after making a few points of that sort. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Rich. I don't have any other public comment cards for general public comment. So is there anybody on Zoom wishing to speak?
If you're on Zoom, if you'd like to speak, if you could please click on the raised hand icon. So I have none, and I have other public comment cards, but they are for item number 4.
Okay, appreciate it. With that, I'll go ahead and close public comment and I'll bring it back to council for any statements. Who wants to go first? Go for it, David.
Regarding the downtown areas, I'll dive onto this one a little bit. It is a test program, so thank you for that positive feedback and the constructive input. I too observed some things just this morning and passing through it, and shared those. I expect that the manager of the test program is taking copious notes and will offer some learns from it and before we cast it to stone, if that's the direction is to take. So thank you for that.
Karen. Mendel?
Just a couple things, as all of, or at least most of us know, there's been a couple of banks that have recently failed, have been seized, and it's unfortunate when that occurs. But I wanted to make sure that the public knows that the city did not have any funds in any of those banks. I think it's really important for everybody to, know that. Not that we would have put any more that was insured in there, but we don't have to worry about having funds that are in those banks. I think it's important that people know that. It's a statement of the prudence and the stewardship that staff and our advisors give. And so I think that that's a really important thing to share. I look at our investment report every month, and nice to see the various mixes of investments which we have, and I think it's up to 130 million. Marie, is that? Am I seeing you nod up and down, which means yes? And so it's not a small pool, and so it's important that it's managed well, and I think it is. I'd also like to thank Karen for the event that she and others put on March 4th. I was able to go there. Wife and I went there, and it was a it was a very informative time. The students that were a part of that did, excellent job. I'm 68 and I learned some things. And so just let it be, known that even when you're old, you can still learn things and be aware of things. And so Karen, thank you to, you and your church for being able to sponsor that event. And just wanted to, say it was a good job. Thank you.
Appreciate it. And I just want to know, we've had, a number of great events take place over the weekend. It was a fun-filled weekend and started out with the empty bowls. Again, that you're very involved in, and hopefully everybody got a chance. Everybody needs soup right now this time of year. We had the trivia challenge supporting the library on Friday night. We had the wine walk on Saturday night that I'm guessing some of you may have indulged in a little bit. So a lot of great things going on in the community, give us an opportunity to get out and celebrate with each other. I would like to ask that tonight we close our council meeting in memory of Dennis Willett and Fred McGehee. Those of you that frequent our council meetings probably know Dennis well. These are two gentlemen that are extremely passionate about the city that they live in. We didn't always see eye to eye on a lot of things, but when somebody is that passionate and loves a community so much that they make it a point to make sure and keep an eye on what we're doing and to help to lead us in the right direction, I think it's important that we remember them. So we will be doing that tonight. Thank you.
Will I get a chance?
Oh,
I know you're thinking
subconsciously.
about me once in a while,
Okay.
but
Okay, Michael, what do you got?
first off, I'd like to give a shout out to my bride, Cynthia. It's her birthday tonight, and so we're sharing her birthday with you and the rest of the council. So thank you for that. We had a strategic planning meeting this last Thursday, that lasted about 7 hours with the city. And it was pretty inclusive. We had a lot of topics that we talked about ad nauseum, but we made some really good strides moving forward. And we're going to see some good stuff out of this. Secondly, is I'd like to see if I can ask Stephen Matera to come up and comment on the striping that's out there, particularly Rich Patton, he's left, to be able to get some information out there to those two folks out there that are watching us tonight. Yes, please.
All right, thank you, council member, and thank you, city council. Yeah, as you noticed, we put out our demonstration project to improve crosswalk safety in the Glendora Village. We did that because we've all seen personally, I've received emails about this, that, cars fail to yield a number of times at those mid-block crossings. There's also a lot of speeding that can happen in the village, and that is our one pedestrian area where we do have a lot of foot traffic, families, people are just trying to get across the street. We were able to get another grant through the San Gabriel Valley Council of Governments to implement this type of project. These are called demonstration projects. So they're not permanent fixtures. They are really there to help us engage with stakeholders on what they like, what they don't like, what we've done wrong. In case the lane width apparently was done wrong. So I will call the contractor tomorrow and figure out how we can address that. The great thing about demonstration projects is they're relatively easy to correct. And also we use this way as an outreach tool. We put out message boards at the crosswalks that explain what the project is and how to take a survey to give us feedback. This will be up for about 6 months, so we'll be taking it down about around July, being mindful of the flashback and then all the parades that happen in the village during the fall.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
My
Stephen.
pleasure.
Even before you go, timing really quick, we originally planned to do the striping before the event, but rain.
Yeah, so it's been raining quite a bit, which isn't ideal for painting the street. So unfortunately, this was our one dry day. We could have done it on Monday. So the outreach wasn't obviously as much as we would have liked to have done. We were just really trying to get it in there and get it done so we can start collecting information on
Perfect.
the project.
Thank you so much. That's it, Mayor.
Thanks, Michael. Adam, Bill, anything? Okay, then we will get started with item number 3, a special item and update on the progress of our antique streetlights.
Perfect. Evening, everyone. Just a verbal update, no action from the city council this evening. 2-3 council meetings ago, we got a comprehensive update and some direction from council to go back and do a bunch of other investigations. So since that time, the city's met with its street lighting engineer, went back over the plans, sort of reevaluated the entire program if we did things differently. We have met with the sole bidder on the project. While we've talked through process with other people who have pulled plans, because the sole bidder staff is engaged in some negotiations to see what a best and final price could be on that, including potentially city staff doing some of the work and looking at other options. So we will be before you March 28th at our next meeting with a comprehensive update on estimated costs. And the reason why we're taking this approach is we have some statutory timelines that go into the process for a possible parcel tax. The city council would have to take action by April 11th if it wanted to move forward this year with any sort of project. And so we would have to have resolutions and an engineer's report. And those processes are happening behind the scenes in case council wants to take a step forward. Based on direction, bless you. Based on direction on March 28th, staff will either take the move forward with the potential lighting assessment district or take other direction as provided by council. So we still have some outreach left to do, but thought it was important since the bidder was interested on looking at contract negotiations to do our very best to come back with potentially a final option for council to consider before we move forward. So theoretically, we'll be back before council March 28th, a comprehensive update. If we decide to move forward with the potential ballot assessment or further consideration, that would take place on April 11th. There'd be a 45-day public window of notification and ballots would receive back in June. So that's it for me. Just a brief update, a ton of work behind the scenes with Moises and I and engineering staff and our third-party consultant trying to look at the project from every way imaginable before we reach out to a larger group. Thank you.
Thank you, Adam. And just to clarify for those of you that actually pay attention, I always recuse myself from the antique streetlight conversation because I own property in the district. This was just an update, so no action was being taken. So I was advised to step down, but I forgot. So, but for the most part, it was just an update. So that's where we're at with that. Okay, with that, I will go ahead and open our first public hearing. This is a public hearing to consider a resolution amending the master schedule of fees for fiscal year 2022-23 relating to outdoor dining. I understand, Alicia, you're going to give us a report.
I am.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor and Council. Tonight we'll be going over potential application permitting fees for outdoor dining in the Glendora Village. Not a very good clicker in advance. Alrighty, so some background. On January 24th of this year, City Council adopted an outdoor dining ordinance which amended previous standards and procedures for outdoor dining in the village. One notable change to the ordinance includes amendments throughout section 21.06.70P of the Glendora Municipal Code, which addresses the application permit review process for the permissible operation of outdoor dining in the village. Under the recently adopted ordinance, businesses operating outdoor dining in the village are now required to complete an outdoor dining application with the city. Tonight, annual outdoor dining application fees are being proposed that, if approved, will be added to the Planning and Public Works section of the master fee schedule. The annual fee that is collected will assist the city in recovering permitting and maintenance costs, as well as preserve the equitable use of public space in the Glendora Village. So just the next slide is going to be that staff was asked to do some research on parklet fees. And as previously mentioned, adopting formal outdoor dining procedures is a relatively new feat for many cities that before the pandemic may have never even considered it. Therefore, information was and still is very limited. Staff started out by first identifying cities that were well in the process of transitioning from a pilot to a permanent parklet program, and found many of them to be more destination cities that benefited from high sales tax revenue. We found that almost all cities with outdoor dining assessed a monthly fee based off of square footage. These fees cover various incurred costs as well as a loss of parking meter revenue, which Glendora does not have. So just referring to the table, there are a few more sampled cities that are included in your packet. But just to go off a low end and a high end, we did take Santa Cruz, which charged 49 cents per square foot, as well as a higher end of Santa Monica, which charges $12.12 per square foot, which is very high. Staff then reached out to businesses with parklets in person and via email requesting feedback regarding potential application fees and came to the determination that permitting outdoor dining fees by square footage would not be suitable for Glendora. And we determined an alternative fee structure would be considered. We then estimated the annual cost to maintain the 7 parklets, 3 of which are shared, and arrived at $7,550. This figure is comprised of costs for weekly cleanup underneath the parklets, public works staff time for maintenance and repair as recommended by the vendor, community development staff time for administrative work and inspection, as well as costs for miscellaneous materials needed. Businesses communicated that these fees were too high and that parklets were already funded. When this was briefly discussed at the January 10th meeting, council expressed that the proposed fees should reflect a reasonable cost to business owners and should not exceed $755. Considering business owner and council feedback, staff went back and revised the fee a second time. Which brings us to what we're looking at tonight, and you could see the table there. Staff is proposing 2 fees, the first being for dining on the sidewalk in the Glendora Village and the second for parklet dining. Again, taking all feedback into consideration and factoring in the added value and vibrancy outdoor dining brings to the downtown area, we took the estimated recovery cost of $755 per parklet and reduced that by about 40%. This brings us to an annual permit fee of $450 per parklet, regardless of the size. If broken down by month, it works out to about $37.50 a month. Staff is also proposing an annual fee of $100 to permit sidewalk dining, which works out to a little less than $9 a month. Businesses conducting both types of outdoor dining would be subject to both fees. So if you had a parklet as well as sidewalk dining, you're looking at $555 potential. I'm sorry, $550 potentially. These would be flat and comprehensive fees covering landscaping, staff time, materials, and use of electrical boxes. We find the proposed fees achieve the equitable and exclusive use of the public right-of-way while still being reasonable to businesses that occupy them. Should this be adopted, the next steps would be for staff to revise the outdoor dining application to reflect approved fees. Staff would then reach out to business owners to go over the application and fee. And lastly, the approved fees would be formally added to the master schedule of fees for fiscal year 24 later this fiscal year. So at this time, staff does recommend that City Council approve the resolution amending the master fee schedule of fees to include the proposed outdoor dining fees.
Oh, is that it?
Yes. That's it.
Okay. Okay, well, with that, I know we have some public comment cards. I will go ahead and open the public comment period. I think everybody heard the instructions before. You've got 3 minutes to speak. First up, Marie Batante.
Hi, everybody. My name is Marie. I'm representing Domenico's. And a lot of you have eaten there, and if you haven't, you should. And I'm here because, first of all, I want to thank you because how surprised everybody was when you provided outdoor dining for us. It was at the heart of losing money because of COVID. And so many people, because I talked to everybody that eats there, were impressed that we got outdoor dining and that our city did it. And usually everybody rags on their city, including me. And this was a real pump for you guys. And people went to their cities and asked that it be done. So it was really a big help. But because of COVID and the backlash of it, our own store has suffered getting product, if you get it. It comes sometime it doesn't. The prices are unreasonable. We're fighting so much, and now we're fighting the rain. So this is a really hard time to add a new fee and I know a lot of people on the block are suffering again because of the rain now. It seems like it's always something, but we're all struggling. And right now it just doesn't seem a good time to implement an extra fee. I'm not saying down the line it can't be talked about, but I think mercy, we're asking for mercy to help us get through this next climb, this hill that we're always seeming to climb. You guys have the power to give it to us. I thank you if you consider that. Thank you for letting me speak.
Okay, thanks, Marie. Next, Fred Sparling. Welcome, Fred.
Thank you. Thank you. My name is Fred Sparling. I own the building at 146 and 148 North Glendora Avenue, which takes care of the Domenico's and the Classic Coffee eating establishments. I'd like to talk to you about the new fees or taxes or whatever you want to call them. This is not a good time to do it. And I'm asking you to vote no on it. We thank you for putting in the parklets. And I realize you got a grant. We thank you for that. It didn't come out of the city budget, but it was a very big improvement for us. And yes, it helped our business, especially during the pandemic. We've received several emails about the parklets and the fees, and they're contradictory to each other. Now, I just heard that the fee is going to be $450 per parklet. Does that mean I pay half the fee and Domenico's pays half the fee when we apply for our outdoor dining? Or do we each pay it? In which case you'd be receiving more money on a small parklet from Domenico's and Classic Coffee than Luca Bella, which has a bigger out parklet than we do. So I think there needs to be some consideration as to how you process the fee and what the fee is for and what it really means. And this is really a tax. It's not a fee. As Marie talked about, we also are having troubles. We've had purchase orders open for 13 months for product and finally received it. And the prices when we get them in are skyrocketed compared to what the price was when we put the purchase order in. So we have no choice but to pay the increased price. We have troubles getting materials, supplies, and labor. And when we do get them, the prices are always more. I put a purchase order in today for hot chocolate to have it made to our specifications. The price is tremendous compared to what we paid for it. We cannot raise our selling price enough to cover the total increase in the cost and still stay in business. As you know, we've got several empty buildings in the downtown village. We don't want another one. We've already lost one restaurant, Drink Your Greens. Please help the other restaurants stay in business. Vote no on this increase, at least at this time. Thank you.
Thank you, Fred. Next up, John Harold. Welcome, John.
Thank you. Good evening. Again, my name is John Harold, and I have here a copy of a newspaper article from September 6, 1979, and it was the Azusa Herald Glendora Press, and it announced the grand opening of Harold's Chicken and Ribs at 956 North Citrus in Covina. My lovely wife, congratulations to your wife on her birthday. My lovely wife and I, right at beginning of law school, opened up a restaurant. And at that time, I was a Democrat. And we opened up a restaurant. And all of a sudden, I learned what government does. We got hit with fees. We got hit by permits. We got hit with all these different things. And it did two things. One thing is, I'm no longer a Democrat. And the second thing it did, it made me go to law school. I went to law school, graduated, became a deputy district attorney, a special attorney general, and a lieutenant colonel in the JAG Corps, because of the fact my restaurant, like many other restaurants, wasn't able to make it. And what I found out during those times is that city councils like yourself government officials always came up with another fee. They came up with something else. When times were bad, they weren't with me. Now, I am proud of you, the fact that you had your parklets, but you know what? Before you had your parklets, we had our parklets. Myself and Alvin Miranda, another local coffee drinker and stuff, we brought our own tables and we brought our own chairs and we sat in front of the restaurants. And we sat there and we went to breakfast, we went to lunch, we went to dinner. Everything we can do to help these merchants get through this time. Now, I was lucky. I was able to retire from the County of Los Angeles. And so I know how good government is. And I know how much easier it is to be government than it is to be them, to be on the other side. I'm now a humble, small local civil rights attorney. With Lori and I have a small local civil rights firm. And I, again, understand you have to bring money in. You don't have to do this tonight. You can vote no. And every single one of you who don't vote no are telling these restaurants, you don't care. Because this is a new fee. The county, the city, the state has not depended on this previously. This is something new. You admitted that, something you've come up with. You don't have to do it. If you want to do it, at least give them a chance to get back on their feet. Because what did the city do recently? Okay, we had the wine walk, which devastated most of the businesses. I went out to dinner there and it was very hard. Then the city did your pet project, which is fine. I understand you're trying to fix the flow, but you know what that did to the businesses on that day? Again, I was eating downtown on that day. Not many people were there on that day. Say no, give them a chance. Thank
Appreciate it,
you.
John. Thank you. Next, Joe Cena. Howdy, Joe.
Hi, how you doing? My name is Joe. I'm the president and CEO of the Glendora Chamber of Commerce. Thanks for allowing me to speak tonight. At the chamber, I mean, we kind of have a general rule. We don't like higher fees, that kind of stuff. We're pro-business, that kind of stuff. But after looking at the report, I mean, I was at the first couple of meetings here, and then we've talked about this at our Lech meeting. And that if it's a $750 like per parklet cost that you're looking at to recoup, and there was no loss in revenue from like parking meters, that kind of stuff, you know, it was a few parking spots lost, and having the parklets really make the village look more vibrant, because when people eat outside when it's not raining, based on what other business owners have said, the chamber, I think the city would benefit greater holding off on a new fee for the goodwill, than going ahead and processing and putting in one right now. Thinking, you know, might be better off holding off, seeing how things go, especially since it's such a small amount per year. You know, if it was much higher than that, you know, I could see it. But we just think you'd get a better bang for your buck without charging a buck. So, okay, thank you very much.
Thanks, Joe. That's all the public comment cards I have. Is there anyone else in the audience? Okay, go ahead and come up, introduce yourself, and then if you'd fill out a card after you speak, I'd appreciate it. Thank you.
Hi, can you hear me?
You can pull it down.
Hi, my name is Ludmila Grigorian. I represent Diplomat Junior. I'm the manager and his sister. I just want to say a few things. First of all, I'm really grateful. We're really grateful to Glendora, City of Glendora. It's been mostly very welcoming, great city, great environment. But with the parklets, we feel just like everybody else is struggling as a restaurant. We have to deal with a lot of things after COVID specifically, losing employees, losing, we have to, we're trying really hard not to modify our menus, our prices, but it's very, very difficult. Prices are going up, meat, vegetables, and we pride ourselves for having very fresh every day. So we're paying a lot for the costs that are going up. And we definitely know this is going to be something that we won't be able to afford it. And also, I also want to mention that it, with all due respect, it just is not honest because we were promised these parklets for free. And now we're being told we're going to be charged for them. Specifically in our case, he spent a lot of money to have this special meat awning. And he was told, no, just get rid of it. You're going to be fine. Everything is free. So he lost a lot of money there. And who's to say if it's $500 this year, next year, it's not going to go up again. And it's just not fair. And we have not been able to, a lot of restaurants have closed because of COVID. We tried really hard to stay in business and we're still struggling, and we're asking you to consider everything that is going on with the restaurant businesses. Thank
Okay.
you.
Thank you.
And I'll fill out that card afterwards.
Okay, show him right there. Anyone else? Don? Yeah.
No, I'm good, thanks. I'm gonna say I concur with what everybody else is saying up here. You've heard from me before. I asked you to be fair in whatever you do. I think if there's any way to put this off for the time being, I agree with everybody else. Our costs, our lack of labor, all of these things that you've heard from everything else is killing us right now. And if there's any way to vote no on it, I would encourage you to do that. Thanks.
Thanks, Don. Last call. Audience, do we have anybody on Zoom wishing to speak?
We actually do have one raised hand. So Matt Russell, we're going to send you a request to unmute yourself. Can you hear us?
Yes, I can. Good evening.
Perfect. You have 3 minutes.
Thank you. Yeah, my name is Matt Russell. I've spoken on this issue previously. I too am strongly against this entire measure and these entire fees. And I'm just arguing on a much more fundamental basis than what others have expressed. These businesses have been subjected to, government bullying and shutdown unjustly through all of this COVID period. And we fought back and we've helped as best we can. And I'm disappointed that the updates to the statute, the ordinance have already been approved. And as far as the costs being discussed tonight, I think that obviously should be zero. But more fundamentally, this whole thing needs to be completely rescinded and start over with a blank sheet of paper. You've got Measure E, sales tax increase funding. You've got a much better plan for a public-private partnership to maintain these parklets and upgrade them in some reasonable way without some heavy-handed city government mandate that does nothing, in my opinion, but service and fund the administration of this program. I see no value added to the businesses whatsoever. So again, and I will reiterate the main point I had last time, was that the changes to the ordinance, the city has granted itself unconditional and unlimited power to either grant or rescind these licenses regarding these fees. You can change them, you can alter them at any reason for any justification that the city deems fit. And that is completely wrong. And I am probably more upset about that than anything else. So yes, the fee should be zero at this point. You need to scrap this entire program and start over from scratch and work with the businesses from the ground up for something that is just and equitable and fair. And that's all I have to say tonight.
Okay, thanks, Matt. Do we have anybody else?
Anybody else on Zoom would like to speak? If you can please click the raised hand icon so that we can let you speak. I have nobody else.
Okay, with that, I will close public comment and bring it back to the council for deliberation. Michael, you want to go first?
Sure. So on slide 20, when you talked about the other cities that have these rates, the high and the very low, did they always have a fee associated with their parklets?
That I would have to look into. I'm not too sure.
So you don't know if they start off from square one with it or not?
Not off the top of my head, no. No.
When we had that discussion, that was actually discussed and debated, and we were not going to charge any fees for the parklets at that time. You know, our restaurants, either from a restaurant or to a local donut shop, is really suffering right now. I've perused a number of them. In fact, tonight, my family went out to celebrate the birthday and had dinner. We were the only ones there. And yes, it's raining, but I'm hearing this more often than none that the patrons are not out there. We're technically in a recession, and who knows when we're going to get out and what's going on. It's just an upset world. I've been on record from day one that we should not be charging a fee for this, and I'm going to stick with that. I do realize, though, that staff spends time in processing these applications. I don't know how long, Adam, how long does it take to process an application?
So I know Jeff and Valerie back there, which probably have a little more experience, but essentially you have to understand that right of way, you have ADA considerations, there's a license agreement, there's an upkeep agreement. So part of the fee is they're not having the general responsibility that the city's taking for these as well. So a little more involved than just that. I mean, at least maybe you're able to describe, but do you know how long it takes? And really it's the quality of the initial submittal as well, like permitting in general, but staff's done a really good job hand holding through the entire process from when these were all just temporary with cones and, you know, tape and everything else at the outset to trees. Jeff or Valerie, do you mind giving a little bit overview?
I think this is the outdoor dining issue has been, you know, one that's been going on for many years. And I think, you know, during COVID, we were able to add the parklets and grant more latitude for, you know, for the businesses to use the public right of way. And it is the city's responsibility to manage and make sure the public right of way is safe for everybody to use and pass. You know, when it came time as we came out of COVID, you know, we had discussions and direction from the council to, you know, if we're going to have these expanded areas, to figure out how to make sure that the use of the public right of way is still safe. You know, everybody's complying with the building codes, with electrical, with any structures that they put in the right of way, as well as minimum accessibility access. And we took that and we got feedback from the Business Improvement District, working with a couple members directly on an ordinance, then through the Planning Commission and ultimately with the council. And so what we're hearing loud and clear is that, you know, the city council, the city wants the public right of way, the way it's used, to be safe and all of those things. What the council does with the fee is simply like any other permit fee. If you get a building permit or a zoning application or anything else, it's to defray a portion or all of the administrative costs to collect the application, to review the application, to police the right of way, to make sure that the permit is being complied with. We got direction to bring back a fee that did not exceed $750. So that's what we did. The council can do whatever it wants with that information regarding a fee, but just hopefully that provides some context and background regarding the.
Jeff, about how long will it take to review an application?
Probably, I'm going to guess, I mean, you know, probably over a couple of weeks, going back and forth with the property owner or business owner, getting them to change. It's going to be several hours.
The actual time, not the time frame overall, but the actual time to spend on that application. Because they're responsible for the upkeep of that
Right.
area. They have to provide proof of insurance, my understanding.
Right.
What else do they have to provide to the city for the city review?
They have to prepare a set of plans. They have to show
Or plans for
the layout of how they're going to arrange, you know, tables and chairs, if they're going to want to use the city's electricity, any connections to that, how that is going to occur.
And a site plan too, if there's any in front of the building, is that correct?
Yeah, I mean, we have to verify, we have to go out, we have to, you know, spend some time, you know, looking and seeing how they propose to set it up.
So there's made reference of a manual that was going to be developed for this. Have you developed that manual for the outdoor dining?
We have an application and it explains the standards for the outdoor dining.
But there was reference to a manual.
It's the actual application which provides the details, and council has seen that and approved that a couple different times.
But do we have a manual for this particular situation?
A
with the
manual
outdoor
that says
dining?
what?
Manual for the parklets, manual for the sidewalk dining? Or do we have the application specifically for that?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, we
You-
have an application for that and it explains what the standards are and what we're looking for in terms of the application and.
So the only amendment that you would be asking for on that application would be if there's a fee attached to it.
That's, again, it's whatever the council wants to do with that. If you want us to administer a program, this is the last thing we need to know.
Right, but I guess what I'm trying to say is to these folks out here, they operate the outdoor dining, do they know the do's and don'ts and what's going to be required of them from the application onset? So they can go through and give you everything at one time. with the
Yes.
Requirements.
Yes, as soon as we have this last piece, we will then go out to the, to each of the individual restaurants and let them know what they have to provide in order to comply with the requirements
So
of
you will
the.
update your paperwork accordingly.
Yeah, if we're gonna charge a fee, there will be a fee with it. If we're gonna charge no fee, there'll be no fee, whatever the council decides it wants to do.
So also in this application, you folks reference, staff references, the landscaping, but that's already being maintained, as I mentioned before, for the bid fees.
This is additional landscaping that's provided as part of the parklets as well.
Yeah, so
What additional? Because they're already out there blowing leaves around and cleaning things up. What additional?
Planters, watering of trees,
That's already part of the bid fees.
not all the bid fees, sir.
yeah,
We will- and we were over
the bid pays.
Go ahead,
is
Elise.
a portion. Okay,
It's actually for the cleaning, the weekly, the parklets are cleaned underneath. That's what we pay for.
It generally happens pretty early in the morning as well. So if you don't think it happens, Don, please let us know. Happy to provide clarity on that front.
Okay, I'll pass for the moment.
Okay, Mendel? Thanks.
Just a couple of questions. Well, I hate to say a couple, because then if I go three, you're gonna. Can somebody or express what the bid board said on this? Did they support the fees? I know there is a member of the bid board here and which has expressed a fair fee. I think we've accomplished that. But can anybody give me a statement as to what the bid board has said about this fee? That's question one.
the bid board, while it recommended adoption of the ordinance, they did not take a formal position on the fee. That was something we developed after it went through the process through the commission, and we were going to present to the council. That's why, if you recall, when we presented the ordinance, one of the things we said, you're going to adopt the ordinance. And the question to the council was, do you want us to adopt the fee? We did not ask the bid board that same question.
Okay. Maybe that's something that we should think about. Question two is, Fred, I think, raised a good point that I don't have the answer to. So could somebody answer the question that Fred raised? Because I know that they share a parklet, and I think that it's been very good, and it's been, kind of a reflection of what Glendora is. So will he, if this is approved, would he pay one fee and the other restaurant pay the other fee, or do
the
they
fee-
share it, or what?
Yeah, the fee's a per application fee. It's not based on the amount of area that you're
Okay.
using.
It's been expressed that maybe not now. Has the staff know what that means? So if we held off for 6 months, 9 months, does anybody on staff, have they been told what that means?
No, I've only heard that as, like you did tonight, as part of
Okay.
the public comment. So it would mean, I would imagine it would mean we wouldn't collect revenue related to the application and permitting processes for outdoor dining and parklet dining. We just wouldn't collect any fees.
Did staff, because I've tried to read this real quickly again, but did staff have a start date in mind when the staff report was written? Because I don't see that in here, but maybe I missed it.
Yeah, once the ordinance goes into effect, which I think 30 days from the second reading, which would be, what is that? Oh, Okay, but in
It'll be,
terms of, I
it'll be
think,
30 days after.
yeah, so okay, 30 days.
Or
after the-
60 if
okay.
it's considered a development related fee.
Okay, is there a payment plan that we could offer them if they wanted to pay it monthly or?
Mayor Pro Tem, this question was actually asked by the mayor at the last time it came up, and staff, if that's the council's direction, we're happy to figure out that aspect if that's the way the council would
Okay.
like to go.
Okay.
If it chooses to adopt a fee.
I understand what's been said, and I appreciate the acknowledgement that the city has attempted to make. We offered 2 rounds of grant funding, and the parklets were in fact paid by us, and umbrellas and everything. And so I think the public needs to know that. Because there is a lot of investment that has been made. So I'm curious as to what my friends up here would think about in terms of a start date. I'm very open to all of that. And lastly, I think I was the one that said that I didn't want the fee to exceed 755 and go back and see what we can do. And I want to applaud staff for what they have done. And I think that staff has tried to land on a fair fee, and I do appreciate that. So that's all I have for right now.
Okay, thank you, Mendel. Karen?
Thank you. Thank you to staff for your work on this. I know for the Art Academy that we run at the church, one of the items that we order is clay. And when we looked into the cost this week to order more, it was 3 times what it was the last time we ordered it. So I can appreciate the cost of doing business and how it continues to go up. So 2 concerns that I have is, one, not rolling out the fee right now. And then as I think about if there was a business having to pay 2 fees for the sidewalk and the parklet, I think that in my mind, one or the other, because I think the businesses that are not using parklets are using the sidewalk a lot more. So I wouldn't want to have somebody have to pay 2 of those. So that would be my thought, is to delay doing the fee now and maybe to look at that again of whether or not people would have to pay 2 fees or just 1 fee. And just let everybody catch their breath just a little bit more right now, because there is a challenge as people are still trying to stabilize their cost and their labor. I know at the last meeting, there was questions by one of my colleagues about charging for electricity. And I thought that trying to decide if it was incandescent or this kind of light or whatever and wattage. So I appreciate that you made everything one cost. That I think that's much easier than trying to itemize things. So thank you for that. And so we'll see where that goes. Sure.
Thank you, Karen. David?
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, guests. This is a sensitive subject, and I've been pushing that sensitive button for 2 years now, so it's kind of a stakeholder in it, but I hear the businesses. I support the businesses in their theories. I have a couple of questions, I guess, for staff and to compliment all of us for this successful project. And I think we need to be aware that a couple of our neighbors, and I hate doing comparisons, but a couple of our neighbors, Claremont, a big vibrant community, Covina, a big vibrant community, eliminated their parklets. And a couple of the cities around us are doing just that thing. I don't agree with that. I think that's a poor choice. And I think that while our businesses greatly appreciate the increased opportunity that the parklets have brought to them, we too appreciate the opportunity to share and have that environment. The fee thing, I've never been hung up on the fee so much. I do think we need to have some sort of an application and an ongoing renewal process like any other process that we do, just to make sure that insurance is current and all those conforming things are current. And there needs to be a reasonable recovery on that process for the annual application. A fee for the parklet, I'm not so hung up on a number there other than fair, reasonable, or none. That, you know, those are opportune. I saw a lot of head shaking out there, and I will concur. If we recall, when we revisited our downtown village cleaning process, we converted from a monthly power washing to a quarterly power washing with our with Athens to do so. And I know that our landscapers blow and go and things periodically. I don't know that anybody's really cleaning under the platforms or lifting the flap. And I'll go with the concurrence of the expressions out in the audience that are saying probably not. Those are things that we got to look at. And obviously, if there's something bigger than throwing food back from underneath and the people dropping it under, we need to clean it, but not the case. Hence, my biggest concern is to the manual question. Here's the manual dated March of 21. It's 2 years old. Okay, the application is included in this, also 2 years old. Everything that we have ever seen has been, here's a proposal or a draft and something to move forward with. So my biggest concerns for the project is, I don't think that it was from both sides, the businesses and the city complied with, even on those terms. I don't think that was fair to the businesses that were good partners. Thank you. To the ones that were cavalier about it and reached out and did lots of their own imaginations. Congratulations, but no thank you, because that didn't exactly be fair to what we intended and for everyone else that was in compliance. So my question and my pushback has always been language and wording. If we're going to make electricity free or very affordable, I would hope that we would all partner with the least expensive to run bulbs. LEDs seems to be today's technology. Those types of things willingly. If we have to say that in the agreement, so be it. But I think we're at a point we can't assume anymore. I think we need to be clear. My question is on the ordinance that was passed. The due date for compliance was February 26th, a few days ago. I don't think we're there yet. Oh, okay, if there's a fee structure, it's down the road. But I guess my question is, what's our implementation program? What's our compliance expectation? And what's the business's willingness to help us meet those goals so we're all a happy family again and not be pushing and struggling? And believe me, I'm the biggest pain in the butt the city hall has, because I go on and I'm curious and struggle with some of the non-conformities. Not that I want to be the Gestapo, but gee whiz, it's not what we all agreed and partnered up to do. I would love to see us get there. When do we think we could achieve that? And I'll ask businesses, and I'll open it to the gallery. When can we all conform and be partners in this to be successful and have this 2-year project move forward and not have to be a project anymore? Anybody?
Jeff, if you wouldn't mind, just for the sake of clarity. So the initial applications and everything else that went through the bid, and every iteration of anything the council's considered and approved has also gone through the bid. We've had businesses sign every iteration of rules that's come up. Is that correct?
Yeah, and we worked closely with 2 bid members on it, and one of them was a restaurant. I think that it was, the whole concept was supported. I think there was agreement that there were certain things that needed to be, cleaned up. fixed, where you have the original parklet, manual that the number of businesses just weren't complying with.
As it
I'll-
relates to this specific process with that, and then I'd ask you to share some about the non-compliance or conversations we've had and sort of just some of the historical challenges there. I think it's important just to acknowledge those. So the iteration with the proposed fees, essentially the $100 variation is largely just staff time and electric costs for those types of areas. The 450 largely is parklet maintenance and proactive maintenance therein that the businesses don't have to do. So the $100 is the staff time back and forth, checking of insurance, the annual application process, the use of electricity. Is that fair?
Yes.
As it relates to the new rules and regulations the council adopted in the ordinance, those would go into the amended pamphlet that was created, which has the new rules, which specifies distance, the 6 or 8 feet and so on and so forth. They would have to also apply for those permits to ensure that there is ADA compliance and safety, and they are adhering and agreeing to follow the standards that the city council set. Is that accurate as well?
Yes.
Okay. Is that helpful? in
Not
some way?
already applying, following those rules?
So every iteration of the program that we've tried to do is, as was mentioned many times this evening, and as mentioned by the council member here, if you remember, the very first parklet program was actually just people stepping down, and we had complaints that people had to step down off the sidewalk into the parking. We had people backing in cars and bringing dinner and chairs, and we're one of the very first cities to do it. We brought in trees that we had to buy every year, but we bought them early and put them in boxes and brought them outside to ensure that we could try to safeguard the pedestrians as much as possible during that time. I think Valerie was out there going door to door at the very start of the pandemic. It is morphed into, and the parklets were approved using Measure M funding, so not grant funding, but revenue the city receives that it could use for other things like paving or other areas, other transportation projects. So the council spent $500,000 on those. And so one of the common questions we get is, are you going to maintain those? Knowing full well that the available square footage in the public space is really, really beneficial, as was mentioned tonight. Probably saved quite a few businesses being able to have their business outside. And that's always been the goal of the city. And so now we're in the process of administering a new program, essentially, with new rules and regulations that set, because it's not just restaurants in the village. There are other businesses that have to share the right of way that don't have parklets for the most part. And so we get equity questions on both ends of the spectrum. So it's not a matter of trying to punish someone. It's really this application process to answer your question is really to ensure that the village is for everyone that goes, that there's adequate safety and passage. I know David and Mendel have both questioned about, hey, how much room can I walk? There's people out in the right of way, there's businesses spilling out. How do we make this work for everyone who visits the village? And so having this annual application process is one of those ways, and a good reminder of businesses for what the process is. So not to exclude anyone, but to try to be as good neighbors and good business partners in the villages as possible.
Yeah, thank you. And recognizing that not every business has a parklet, so I don't want to focus tunnel vision on just the dining platforms. I want all the businesses that are enjoying outdoor dining. I think that's important. And I've also, sought an easy access to electricity that we don't have to run strings. I guess if we can come up with a way that doesn't break the bank to make a hard plug available or plug into the tree and not have a long string extension cord. I support that, but let's make that ADA compliant, yet also weather tolerant and reasonable and business friendly. But let's do those things. But I'd love to see the up-to-dated final manual, not the draft version that we were given on January 10th. Love to see the final manual. And I guess I'd like to move that we adopt. Okay, for a motion, or would you like to comment first?
No, I've got a few questions to
Well,
come.
then I'll hold off if you'll come back to me, please.
I would appreciate that. Okay, bottom line is we created a monster. And we got to try to figure out how to deal with this. I know small businesses are struggling. dramatically. But if you look at the big picture of what has happened, it's something that we got to figure out how to deal with. Question that I have, the parklets are public space. They're owned by the city and everything. Would the inclusion of fees make the parklets exclusive to the businesses that are paying the fees?
Does the fact that we impose a fee make it exclusive? No, it's the agreement that we enter with them. They, under the program that, you know, we've adopted, each parklet user who has it for exclusive use would enter an agreement with the city, and sign that agreement and agree to certain operating, you know, terms.
Okay, so right now, the parklets are not exclusive to the businesses that are using them.
Some of, yeah, they are, actually they are,
They
yes,
are?
because they all, the ones who are using them all previously signed parklet agreements, so yes.
Okay, so they're exclusive. You know, I look at the repairs. I know we had an issue and it was our issue because a tree fell on it, but we had a tree fall onto Don's
Yeah.
parklet and damage was done. Well, if, for example, if something, a piece of equipment, a heater or something out there fell onto the parklet and did damage to it, who is going to be responsible for the repairs to that?
We would be responsible, just like we are, we're when the tree fell on the
That's what,
parklet before.
yeah, and that's what we're proposing with the fee. Ironically, on the tree, because it was the parklet is why we approved it. Just because a tree falls doesn't always make it the city's liability. There's quite a bit of case law, not to get into it, but that in and of itself, it isn't a determination. It's that the city had previous agreements as we were figuring this all out, that we took liability for those parklets, which is why we covered it.
Okay, so the bottom line, moving forward, the taxpayers are going to be responsible for the ongoing maintenance and repairs of the parklets, regardless as to whether or not we have a fee?
Yes, I mean, they're out there in the public right of way. We own them, you know, major repairs, replacement of, you know, parts that stop functioning, things like that. The users are simply responsible to keep it neat, clean, you know, and maintained on that, from that standpoint.
It is
But
always what has made our program a little more unique as it relates to other cities and taking over some of that responsibility. The city council could also direct staff to amend those agreements under the new program and put 100% of the liability and upkeep, and including any capital challenges, on the businesses that use them.
So do we have an idea the damage that we had at the one parklet, what the cost was to make those repairs?
Even was it like 13,000?
It was about $13,000. And so even if damage was caused by a customer of the restaurant or by somebody that works at the restaurant, we would be on the hook for, the taxpayers would be on the hook for those additional costs.
Correct.
Does that pertain to the umbrellas as well? Because
Umbrellas were one-time use. I think we specified they were one-time use.
they are, but we are, I mean,
We're maintaining them
we
for
are
like a 3-year
maintaining,
period.
yeah, as long we show the restaurants how to operate them, but if a major component breaks, they're still owned by the city and we'd be responsible for it.
Specify like the high wind situations that they need to put down, so that if rules are not followed. Sorry.
10 push-ups, Stephen.
We have the health challenge, right? So
That's right.
I gotta beat you. Yeah, so for things like with the operational, the permit does cover, you know, proper use and operation of things like the umbrella. And, you know, if those are not followed, that becomes a liability of the operator of the parkway. So there was a situation where we had a high wind event and one
Right.
was not put down, it was damaged, that restaurant paid for the repair
Oh, okay.
to that.
And we specify that in the agreement, right?
Very clear in the agreement.
Yeah.
I believe when we purchased the umbrellas, we did the upfront purchase, installation, training, and encouraged care of, but
Yeah, and in fact,
if something failed afterwards, that was on the operators.
Right, and we even would send out emails during a couple month period just to remind restaurants to put umbrellas down, as to help
Yeah.
kind of reinforce that. So, you know, it's a partnership, you know.
Okay. Don't go anywhere, Stephen.
Can't.
Because the next question, the Meta Avenue improvements and so on, are there any fees involved with the Meta Avenue improvements?
No,
Okay. And those are not exclusive to individual restaurants or anything?
no, those are not exclusive. Those are public spaces.
They're open to everybody. Okay, I appreciate it. You know, this is, that's all.
Okay.
Okay. It's really tough for me because I brought this up when we first were having the conversation and it's one of those things as a previous small business owner myself, to get something like this as a business owner, there's a tremendous amount of value to it, a tremendous amount of value. And I believe that we should have been discussing at that time some sort of cost agreement with the business owners and cost of the maintenance and repairs and everything, but we didn't. We didn't. We made the decision to not go there at that time. I still believe that we should be recovering this. I don't believe that the government should be subsidizing things for individual businesses. That's my own personal belief. But that's what we're talking about doing. And so for me, I struggle with it, but I lean with the fact that when we originally talked about these, it was one thing. I would really wish that the business owners that are benefiting from these things would come to us with ideas of how we address it, because I know most of those business owners agree with me that the government should not be subsidizing businesses and, when it comes to business expenses. So we are where we are. There's no right answer. So David, if you want to make a motion, go for it.
I do. I have a comment though. One of our requirements is to require that the business partner provides insurance, liability, and any physical damage insurance part of that. And okay, so if somebody drives into it and damages it short of a natural tree fall, I think we have a course of recovery to avoid the city having to pay that. The operator of the cars got a crash, they got a property damage issue. We should have some form of a method of recovering our costs.
Because it's in the right of way, we typically make the repairs as quickly as possible and then figure that stuff out on the
Okay,
back
well,
end.
that's fine, but
Yeah.
the operator of the suspect vehicles is not off the hook just because we chose
Correct.
to fix it. So that's,
Correct.
I think, and we're asking for shared responsibility in the insurance. So, okay. I would like to make a motion that we ask for a formal document in the application and manual to be brought back to us at the March 28th meeting. And at that time include a $100 annual application and power fee, and not include any additional fees at this time.
I'll second that.
Sorry, trying to write this in real quick.
Is that timeline feasible, Jeff, Valerie?
I mean, we have
Please,
a
yeah.
draft that's almost done, and I know that the deadline is, we'll bring what we have.
Do we have enough time for a public notice for the $100 fee?
I think we can continue, can we do that, do a date certain?
We would request that you continue the public hearing.
Yes, please. May we continue the public hearing to that date as well?
So by continuing that, does the fee not apply?
No, it just
Next
means that
time?
we don't have to notice that the resolution.
Okay.
Does the parklet pamphlet need to be a separate item on the agenda?
No, it could be incorporated.
And when are you anticipating that they'd have to pay that fee?
Well, then, another question I had, not in its motion, but yes, that's a good timetable of, since theoretically the ordinance went into effect on February 26th, and we're still rolling that out. What kind of inception date and expectation for compliance date are we?
The
looking at?
earliest fees could be applicable 30 days after. I'm looking at Marie. Is it 30 days after? So 30 days after. So the earliest it could go into effect is essentially May 1st.
But don't
Okay.
we already have an application process in line right now with a date annually that they have to apply to?
With the program changes, this would be a brand new
Right, but
program,
then
new
we're gonna
requirements.
overlap with an existing fee, existing application, are we not?
Those would all be revoked.
These new regulations they're brand new. We amended the code, so.
Essentially, we're ensuring their compliance. They're agreeing to comply with the municipal code that is in effect today.
But I guess maybe a point of order perhaps is we already have an agreement in place with an application process and. now-
Different set of rules in which they apply by. So essentially, the advice we receive from the city attorney's office would be you start over. Those are all revoked and you have a new process pursuant to the new rules that city council adopted.
A contract that we already have in place.
City's sole right and discretion on the parklets.
Well, did we not approve that ordinance and that process on the 24th of January and the 31 days after that? So if we're just doing a fee, or does the whole thing
The real
start? over?
question is, does the permit run forever? It does not. The permit
An
is in the
annual,
nature of a license.
it's an annual permit.
But we have new regulations, so the new regulations are going to preempt the old existing program, and new regulations will apply when they become effective. So the ordinance became effective in 30 days. The implementation of the fee will be another 30 days. So collection of the fee will be one thing. Implementation of the ordinance will be when you finally approve the revised application.
But isn't that fee going to be associated with a new application?
It will be associated with all applications that will either be new or renewed.
Right, so the application they currently have, I believe that's in June or July, because we all did them at the same time roughly. Those are going to be null and void, that contract we have with the parklet operators?
Some of the new rules would offset those. So it's
They'll be superseded.
correct.
So unilaterally, they can be taken out by the city.
Correct.
So what if the operator of the parklet say, I don't want to do this anymore, unilaterally, can they say no to with the contract?
They could revoke if a business owner came to us and said, we don't want to have this anymore. Okay.
Is it within the language of the application?
Yeah, I believe they can cancel.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't specifically talk about that, but if someone doesn't want it anymore, I suppose we'll have to.
I assume there's another
pick it up,
business that would want
collect
it. Yeah.
Just looking at this from a contractual.
But this is not a contract. This is a permit that's being issued.
It's essentially an
in a
encroachment
city- In
permit.
a city right of way. So the permit is only valid consistent with the law that permits the permit. If the law is amended, then the permit gets superseded by current law.
Can I ask another silly question? So the fee, if they paid that, let's say, May, June, is that just till the end of the year or is it for a whole 12 months? So that,
It would be for a 12-month period.
Calendar, yeah.
and still that payment of that could be negotiated? If we were saying a payment process or something?
With $100 fee, it'd be up to the council. I mean,
Yeah.
that's council discretion. Staff will make whatever work
Just
work.
because that was asked earlier. So
Yeah,
I'm
no,
just trying to
staff will make
clarify.
whatever work works.
Mr. Mayor, is it appropriate to open up public comment again based on the motion that's on the floor?
So first question, is it legal?
If the majority of the council approves it, it is, yeah.
Okay.
We would ask though that you reopen the public hearing if that's the case.
I would like for it to be opened.
Is the, okay, sure. Okay,
Yes.
so we need to vote on it?
Yes. Are you seconding it?
I'll second it.
I would ask the council if anyone has opposition to that, maybe the easier way.
Anybody have opposition to reopening the public hearing and requesting for additional public comment?
Yes, I do. I think we've given this sufficient hearing, and I think the action we're about to vote on is extremely fair, and I just don't support talking about it more. So.
Okay. In that case, we have a motion and a second. We should take a vote.
Right.
So I'll conduct an oral call vote. Councilmember Ellis,
This is to
to open up the
comment?
public,
Yes, yes.
Councilmember Davis,
Yes.
Councilmember Freendall,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Thompson,
No.
and Mayor Boyer.
Yes.
So we have 4-1
Well, no, I've expressed.
Mayor,
my
we will leave it up to
opinion.
you if someone wants to come up to the podium or if
Bendel has
council
a
has
very good
questions.
point, but I think at this point, it'd be nice to be able to resolve this tonight. So at this point, I will reopen public comment. Reminding everybody, do we have the ability to limit it to 1 minute?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
I'm going to ask that everybody limit it to 1 minute. And if you're here in person, if anybody would like to raise their hand, and we'll deal with the public comment cards as we need to. Is there anybody in the audience who would like to say anything else? Okay, Don.
I think it's very fair what you're proposing. As far as what David's asking, how quickly could we comply? I don't see why we can't comply immediately. And what do we have to do? We have to put our tables 8 feet apart or whatever the rules are. I don't know them off the top of my head, but it should be no problem that we should be able to comply immediately with it.
Don, I don't think the issue's with your restaurant. I think
Well,
there are other challenges. that
Yeah,
are
no,
the issue.
I agree, but
Thank you,
even
Mr.
with
Nolan.
them, they should have to, yeah.
Okay, appreciate it.
They should have had to in the beginning is what I'm gonna say.
Thank you, Don. Do we need additional public comment cards filled out?
No.
No?
No,
Okay,
that's
We're
okay.
good. Fred?
I'd like to thank all of you for all this good, hard work you've done to it. I think this is a very fair and equitable solution to the problem. I have no problem with it. I would recommend you vote for it. Thank you very much.
Okay, thanks, Fred. I saw another hand. Oh, okay. I'm sorry, we're a small town, but,
I'm Michelle Batanti.
oh, hi.
Part owner
Hey,
of
Michelle.
Domenico's. I just want to say thank you. And I think it's totally fair. I am all for paying. I think what everybody was just asking is just a little bit more time for us to kind of get through all of these things that are going on. I, for one, would love the electricity. I would love for somebody to clean. We're fair. We understand business, but I think what everyone's saying is maybe just a little bit more time. Like if we can, seems like there's a lot of confusion just between all of y'all. Like when is the application coming? What is $100? Like, are we just paying $100 now? Or, so maybe a little bit more clarity, a little bit more time so we can kind of get through this rainy season, get into the nice weather so we can actually get some business back in the parklet. So I don't think anybody is opposed to paying, which I'm not. I love all the benefits to paying, just maybe not right this minute, maybe give us some time to recoup some of the costs.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Do we have anybody on Zoom?
If anybody on Zoom would like to speak, if you can please click the raised hand icon so we can allow you to speak. I don't have any.
Okay, then I will close the second public comment. And I will close the public hearing again, and we have a motion and a second on the table. Anything else we need to vote?
I will do an oral roll call vote on what was to continue the item to the March 28th meeting. Hopefully I understood correctly. And to come back with a formal document for the manual and include $100 fee with no additional fees at this time. Is that correct?
May we include document, manual and application, please?
Manual.
And the
I'll-
$100 fee includes what? On your, what was your motion here?
The cost for the application, is that what you had said? If not, if
For application processing and electricity.
Wasn't on there, so thank you.
And business partners, stand back. We're having it washed tonight.
Whoosh.
Plants watered.
I thought that was Kyle for a second.
all right.
I
So now-
ask one additional
He gave us
question
the
that I don't think
material.
is clear.
Yes, sir.
Are we talking about $100 application and electricity fee for sidewalk dining and for the parklets?
It would be one fee regardless of which one of those two or both that were.
They
applicable
use
for.
just sidewalk, just parklet, or a combination of both?
Yes.
Okay, so now we'll conduct an oral roll call vote. Councilmember Alves,
Yes.
Councilmember Davis,
Yes.
Councilmember Freendall,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Thompson,
Yes.
Mayor Boyer.
I don't know.
That's not it.
Yeah, yes.
So motion carries 5-0.
Okay. Okay, we got through that one. We'll move on to item number 5, which is our second public hearing to consider a resolution to approve a tentative parcel map number 83617 to subdivide an existing lot located at 445 North Oak Drive and 960 West Leodora Avenue, Glendora, California, into 2 separate individual lots. Natalie Espinoza. Hey, Natalie, how you
Hi.
doing?
Good, thanks. And yourself? Good evening, Mayor Boyer and city council members. Tonight for your consideration is the subdivision of an existing property into 2 separate lots. The property is located at the southwest corner of North Oak Drive and West Leodora Avenue. The site is zoned E7 20,000, which is single-family estates, and has a general plan land use designation of low-density residential. Single-family residences surround the subject site to the north, south, east, and west. There are 2 existing single-family residences with different addresses on the subject property. The first residence is located at 445 North Oak Drive. It was built in 1913 and has had various alterations since it was built. The second residence is located at 960 West Leodora Avenue. The main house was built in 1905, the garage in 1949, and the guest house in 1971. This house was originally located at 1107 West Foothill Boulevard, but it was relocated in the 1980s. The applicant is proposing a tentative parcel map to subdivide the existing lot into 2 separate lots, each with one of the existing homes. This is the existing site plan showing all of the structures and trees on site. And this is the proposed site plan that shows where the subdivision would occur and the new right-of-way dedication for street improvements along Oak Drive. Each of the proposed lots meets and exceeds the code requirements for minimum property line lengths of 100 feet by 100 feet and the minimum lot size of 20,000 square feet in the E7 20,000 zone. The existing house at 445 North Oak Drive has a front setback of 22 feet 7 inches, yet the required front setback is 25 feet according to our zoning code. Although the existing setback is less than what is required, this is acceptable for the map approval since this is an existing condition on a house built in 1913, and the map only needs to be in agreement with and in harmony with the general plan, which in this case it is. Additionally, the neighboring house to the south also has a non-conforming front setback. There are a couple of street improvements that are required with the approval of this project, which includes the relocation of an existing fence from the right-of-way to the individual properties, removal of an existing dirt island located at the center of Oak Drive to be repaved per city requirements, a 5-foot dedication proposed along Oak Drive for future public improvements, and relocate an existing water meter from the right-of-way to the private properties. In terms of noticing, the item went to Planning Commission and recommended approval to the City Council. On March 1st, the notices for the City Council meeting were mailed out to property owners within a 500-foot radius. And on March 2nd, the notice was published in the San Gabriel Valley Examiner. Staff recommends that the City Council adopt the CEQA notice of exemption and categorical exemption and adopt the resolution for approval of the proposed 2-lot subdivision. I'm available for any questions, and I believe the applicant is here via Zoom.
Okay, I appreciate it. At this time, I'd like to invite the applicant to speak if they'd like to. Dmitry Kazakov. Are they here?
Yes, he is.
Yes,
Demetri, we're gonna-
Oh, he's on
Okay,
Zoom?
perfect. You have 10 minutes.
Yes, as Natalie just basically described the project, we're proposing to subdivide the 2 parcels at 445 Oak and Glendora. And those are existing conditions as you saw on the site plan. And we're not changing anything, even though some some setbacks are non-conforming. And we submitted the tentative parcel map. We recommended, the recommendation was the approval from the planning commission. So basically, we're just asking you guys to review it again and approve it today so we can move forward with our project. I really don't have any more comments because Natalie covered it all. If you have any questions, I'm here for you. And also the engineer who prepared the plans also is present on the meeting, and the owner is present. So if you guys have any questions, we're ready to answer anything you guys have.
Okay, I appreciate it. I'll ask of council, do you have any questions of the applicant at this point? David? Questions?
None of the applicant. I have a question, but not of the applicant.
Okay. Well, with that, then I will open public comment on this item. Do we have any public comment cards?
I haven't received any cards. Anybody out in the audience?
Okay.
No,
Do we have anybody on Zoom?
Anybody on Zoom, if you would like to speak during this public hearing item, if you can please click on the raised hand icon. I have none.
Okay, I appreciate it. I'll close the public comment on the hearing, and at this point, I guess I close the public comment and bring it back to council for any deliberation. David?
Yeah, thank you, Natalie. The one question I have is a curiosity as to why we have determined that the dirt island with the tree in the middle of Oak Drive is a responsibility of the applicant to fix, to make a conforming street. Is that their island, or how did that get assigned to them, I suppose?
Well, as part of the parcel map, there are street improvements that have to be done. And in this case, to have the street so that the street has the accurate width as part of the project, it needs to be removed.
Yeah, no question about the removal of the tree. It's been a curiosity for my lifetime, but yeah, and just why we assign it to the applicant, because we've done a couple of projects recently and not forced the applicant to do something with conforming adjustments to streets nearby their project. So I'm just curious as to why the applicant gets to do this.
A lot of it's project dependent.
I don't have anything to add regarding the dirt island and.
I think the question is why here and not on other projects. So I think, for example, we just had a street width a question, but LA County Fire thought it was okay. But here we have a street conforming issue that's out front of this specific project. Is that essentially?
Well, I'd have
the
to
nexus?
understand what other projects we're talking about in
Well,
order to.
I just use that as an example, but I'm not leaning on that. I'm just curious as to why this property got assigned that island, why it's their responsibility, because I think there's a neighbor across the street that shares that same section of street, so I don't know.
I do not know.
Okay. I find that odd, but that the applicant gets to fix that part of the street, but other than that, the applicant and the project is perfect.
I mean, typically it was an improvement in the public right of way, so public work, made it a requirement of the subdivision, including the street dedication to meet their standards on the street. So unfortunately, I don't have an answer as to why the exact rationale to that, but it's.
Okay.
I think just because in
Maybe
that
it's probably to
particular
clean it
case,
up.
it's part of that condition. And I can't think of specific examples, but in the past, there have been other situations where there were conditions. It may not have been a island in the street, but it still had to be done because it was part of that. So.
Okay. No other questions. Thank you.
Okay. Any other? Jeff, before you sit down, I have one question. It might be for you or for Bill. Yeah, you betcha. With the state getting more and more involved in local zoning, once we do a lot split, how does this affect SB 9? I remember under SB 9, you were allowed to do one lot split. Is that only if somebody identifies it as an SB 9 split, or is that for any lot splits?
That's correct. It's only if it's done as an SB 9 split. This property, this lot is not being split under SB 9. It's of a substantial enough size that it can be split under our standard zoning requirements. And so each of the lots, you know, like any other lot in the area could in the future exercise an SB9 lot split.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure the owner was aware if there was going to be any restrictions there. Is the only question I had.
And to add to that, we did give the owner the option if he wanted to do an SB9 and he said he didn't. So what we're thinking is that they're probably going to sell both properties.
Okay, smart man.
Uh,
Okay.
I'll move items 1 and 2.
I'll second.
We have a motion by Michael, a second by David. Looking for everyone to vote.
Okay, so I'll conduct an oral roll call vote. Councilmember Elvis,
Yes.
Councilmember Davis,
Yes.
Councilmember Freendall,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Thompson,
Yes.
Mayor Boyer,
Yes.
motion carries 5-0.
Thank you, Natalie. We should have had you lead the last session. It would have been, got through that quick. Okay, move on. Item number 6, a public hearing to consider a proposed 5-year consolidated plan 2023 through 28 and proposed annual action plan fiscal year 2023 and 2024 for the Community Development Block Grant Program.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and good evening, council. So tonight is the first of 2 public hearings that are required for planning of the Community Development Block Grant, or CDBG, for the next 5 years. So tonight, we're going to review both the updated 5-year consolidated plan as well as the annual plan for the fiscal year 23-24. So the CDBG grant is administered by the United States Department of Housing and Urban Development, or HUD. It was implemented in order to address affordable housing, anti-poverty efforts, and infrastructure development. Glendora is an entitlement community, which basically means that we need to apply directly with HUD every year for our allocation. This year, our application will include an updated 5-year consolidated plan. We are up for renewal on that. It's going to cover the period between 2023 to 2028, as well as our annual action plan for fiscal year 23-24. So as far as what is the consolidated plan, well, first and foremost, it is a requirement that we need to have with HUD. The 5-year plan is going to identify the needs for the community, as well as a strategic plan that identifies goals that will be able to meet those priority needs. And also it will include the first year annual action plan, so the 23-24 fiscal year plan, which includes specific programs and budgets for the annual CDBG allocation. So before diving into the con plan and the annual plan, we'll just talk a little bit about the acceptable uses of CDBG funds. First and foremost, you must meet a national objective. There are 3 national objectives, that is to benefit low and moderate income persons, eliminate slum and blight, or to meet an urgent community need. It also, activity must also meet one of the priority needs, which are identified in the consolidated plan. So as we worked to design the new 5-year consolidated plan, we did conduct some community outreach. Staff, along with our consultant, attended events. We attended the Pumpkin Festival in October and the Holiday Boutique in November, I believe. And we did a little activity that asked the community what they felt the priority needs would be, considering what our eligible uses of the CDBG grant would be. And based on those, based on our city goals and the public outreach feedback that we received, the priority needs were determined to be infrastructure and public facilities, economic and human development, public services, which is new this year, that would allow for providing services to seniors or homelessness, food banks, things of that nature, fair housing, which is a requirement of the CDBG program, and administration. So now as we move forward to the annual action plan and the proposed activities for that, as we started to plan for that, we estimated at the time that there would be an allocation of $300,000. In order to allow for public participation or nonprofit groups to apply for funding, we put a notice of availability in the paper as well as posted it on our website. And we had that application period open from December 9th through January 13th. And we received 2 applications, one from our Public Works Department and one from the Housing Rights Center. So below or on this slide is the activity proposed for the 23-24 annual action plan. I will say at the time that this report was written, we did not have our allocation yet. So you'll see the number 300,000, but we did receive our actual allocation in the last week. That number is actually 289,933. So when we look at these numbers, they're going to be adjusted where administration will allow for 20% of the funding, which is the maximum allowed under the program for administration, and then infrastructure, the remaining. So the actual numbers, and it's basically what you see there. But the Housing Rights Center, which will provide fair housing services, will be 20,000. And then the general CDBG administration, which allows for staff time as well as our consultant to do the compliance and reporting required, would be 37,987. And then Public Works, who proposes to install 40 curb ramps, will be 231,946. And that will be in the draft, which will be available next week. So here we have a map of the city, and those yellow areas are the census tracts that are determined to be low to moderate income areas. Those are typically where we will do our street projects. In this case, we're doing curb ramp improvements, which allow for AD accessibility pathways. So they don't necessarily need to be in low income tracts, but they're actually in the lower left center in tract 439.02. And this gives you a better idea of those locations. So there'll be 30 curb ramp improvements in block 1 and 10 curb ramps there in block 3. So as far as the required steps moving forward, as I mentioned, tonight is the first of 2 public hearings. We will go ahead and have the draft ready. Once we hear any comments, we'll go ahead and incorporate those into the draft and have that available for a 30-day public review period, which will begin on March 21st and end April 24th. We'll have that available on our city website, as well as City Hall and the Community Development Department at the Plowing Counter and City Clerk's Office. And as well, that'll include both the consolidated plan and the annual action plan. And then we'll come forward for the second public hearing on May 9th. And with council's approval, we'll submit that application as well as the consolidated plan to HUD. So tonight, the recommendation is that City Council establish the priority needs as noted for the 5-year consolidated plan, review and accept the activity of the projects to be included in the draft, and then commence the required 30-day public comment review period. And that will conclude my report. We do have our consultant available via Zoom if there are any other questions as well.
Okay, thank you, Valerie. At this point, I will go ahead and open public comment for the hearing. We don't have any public comment cards.
I have no cards, and on Zoom, it's all staff, so no, we don't have anybody on Zoom.
Oh, okay. Okay, well, I'll go ahead and close public comment and bring it back to council for any deliberation. Michael, go.
Valerie, nice presentation. Just a quick question on the 20% administration costs. What can we build towards the program under the 20%?
That is for staff time, our consultant, and then also the fair housing for Housing Rights Center.
Okay, does that also include inspection time and everything to do the work?
If we were to go out and inspect for like Public Works, the works that they're doing, yes, we can charge our time there as well.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you. It's all the questions I have.
Anything else? Okay, well then I'll close public hearing and looking for a motion.
Second.
So a motion was made by Alois, seconded by Mayor Pro Tem. So I'll conduct an oral roll call vote. Councilmember Alois?
Yes.
Councilmember Davis?
Yes.
Councilmember Freendall?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Thompson?
Yes.
Mayor Boyer?
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you. Okay, Next up is consent calendar. Before we go there, I just got to clarify, Alicia, I want to make sure the tongue-in-cheek comment I made earlier was no criticism of the job you did. You did a great job. We, on the other hand, we finally got to the
The
finish line.
problem is,
Yes.
Okay, the consent calendar, items on the consent calendar will be enacted by a motion without individual discussion unless anybody would like to pull one of the items. Does anybody?
I'll move consent items under 7 and 8.
Second.
Too late.
Oh, David. No, give it to
Go
David.
for it, go for it. So a motion was made by Councilmember Ellis, seconded by Mayor Pro Tem Thompson. I will now conduct an oral roll call vote to approve consent calendar items 7 and 8. Councilmember Ellis,
Yes.
Councilmember Davis.
yes.
Councilmember Freendall,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Thompson,
Yes.
Mayor Boyer.
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
Okay, item number 9, approve the proposed increase in the contract amount for water emergency on-call services for fiscal year 2022 and 23 by a total amount not to exceed $225,000. Management analyst Maya DeCastro to report. Hey, Maya.
Hi, good evening, everyone. By way of introduction, I am Myla DeCastro. This is actually my second time presenting, so bear with me again if I faint. Just don't call 911. It's not an emergency. So speaking of emergency, I'll be talking about emergency on-call contract. This is not actually emergency as to 911. It's more on main leaks repairs with our pipes and infrastructure, but actually it could be an emergency if someone drowning in there. So just kidding. So as a background, as of July 2019, we already fully executed and approved the contract with 3 of our contractors as T. Roberts, JD, CG Construction, and Big Ben. So those are the 3 construction company that we've been using. Originally, we budgeted $425,000 per year for each of these contractors. And then due to the increased demand for emergency services, staff is requesting an additional $75,000 for each contractor in a total of $225,000. So these are the objectives that we propose to for the budget increase because of the water division to get additional support during the peak periods when routine water public works repair are needed, and also when emergency repairs may overwhelm the existing staffing needs. So these are the work included in there, except for, CPR or someone drowning in there. So as mentioned, So these are the overview of the water leaks. So last year we've reached to 221 leaks. Current year to date, as of Feb 28, 2023 of this year, we already reached up to 206 leaks. So that means that we already 93% of the leaks that we've already got throughout the year. But then we still have 3 months to go. So that's why we're requesting additional budget for that. Since July 2022, we've experienced a lot of spike in leaks in larger diameter pipes, which is 16 to 20 inches, that have required extensive repair and or replacements. So as mentioned, year to date, we have already reached 93%, 206, but last year we have a total of 221 fiscal year of last year. With this, 93% of our services repairs we've done with our city staff, and only 5% of this, which are 3 of our contractors working on those, especially if those are the big ones. So what I'm showing right now is a sample of an image. Just a quick note, they're not building a kiddie pool there or a jacuzzi. They're actually fixing main leaks in there where they're using a 20-inch butterfly valve. What the equipment does is it stops the leak from recurring more loss of water in there. And this is actually at Gladstone. And then this is before and after the repair. This is a 16-inch water main leaks at Glendora Mountain Road. And lastly, this is the recommendation that we propose with the city council. Number one is to approve and increase the contract with three of our contractors with 75,000 in each, total of 225. And also authorize the city manager or his designee to execute amendment number 4 with the 3 of these contractors. So any question? Thank you. Sorry.
Okay, any questions?
No.
I think Mila's going to give Kyle a run for his money.
Ah.
So, good job. Good job.
Thank you.
Okay, well, there's no questions or comments. Looking, I've got a motion by David and a second by Karen. Everyone would please vote.
I will conduct an oral roll call vote. Councilmember Ellis,
Yes.
Councilmember Davis,
Yes.
Councilmember Freendo,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Thompson,
Yes.
Mayor Boyer,
Yes,
motion carries 5-0.
Thank you.
thanks, Mila. That wasn't so bad now, was it? Okay, next, we're on to new business. Item number 10, award a contract to Gentry Brothers Incorporated for the Cumberland Road, Palomar Drive, Lone Hill Avenue, Amelia Avenue, Country Club Drive, and Country Club Vista water and street improvements. Civil Engineer Assistant James Lowe to report.
Good evening.
Welcome,
everyone.
James.
Hi, good evening, Mayor Pro Tem and council members. Actually, yeah, I'm here to present you the construction contract award for Cumberland Road, Palomar Drive, Long Hill Avenue, Amelia Avenue, Country Club Drive, and Country Club Vista Water, and for water and street improvement plan number 1341 to 1345. Okay, as you can see, the project will start from the intersection of Foothill Boulevard and Long Hill and go towards to the northbound, and also include the Palomar Drive and Cumberland Road cul-de-sac, and goes to the other map. It's gonna be start from Amelia, start from Country Club Drive to the Route 66, including Country Club Vista, cul-de-sac, Country Club Drive, and also the Wildwood Ranch Road to the city-owned water reservoir. Okay, here's the project scope. So city will install 4,900 linear foot new 8-inch and 12-inch water main, including install new fire hydrants, new water meters, meter box, new customer service lateral, and resurfaces the street with rubberized asphalt. I want to particular talk about this is the PCI rating for those sections will all be restored to 100 with this work. Reconstructed portion of the curb and gutter, cross gutter and sidewalk, and construct the new curb ramps to fit the ADA requirement. Okay, Public Works held a bid opening on December 6th, 2022. We received 4 responsive bids. The bid ranges from nearly 3.1 million to $6.9 million, and engineers estimate is 4.4,612,087. The city awards to Gentry Brothers as the lowest responsive bidder. For the project timeline, the award of contract is today, and the construction duration will be 120 working days. And due to the material availability and the supply chain, the construction start and completion date will be to be distributed. Okay, here we goes to fiscal impact. The city allocated the budget from fiscal 23 and 2024. And we have an appropriation request for $434,308 from water fund. And we are anticipated to spend another $190,000 for material testing and the construction inspection. And city staff recommendation to city council that adopt the categorical exemption from the CEQA pursuant to section 15301C of the California Code of Regulations. And item 2 is approve the plan and specs for the water and stream improvement plans number 1341 to 1345. Item 3, award the contract to the Gentry Brothers in the amount of $3,095,880. Item 4, authorize the city manager or his designate to execute the agreement with the Gentry Brothers, including the minimum and or non-substantive changes. Item 5, authorize the admin services director to appropriate this amount from the water capital project fund towards to the project budget, and authorize the public works director to execute in any necessary orders in the amount of not to exceed 10% of the original contract amount. And that concludes my presentation. Thank you.
Okay, appreciate it. I'll bring it back to council for questions, deliberation. Mendel.
I was just saying, I think Mendel needs to make this motion
Well, that
because
was one of the first things I was gonna ask if my
It's all
friends would
yours.
allow me to make this motion.
Does he get a tag on the curb too?
James, I have never met
Got
you,
there.
but I do believe that you're like a Santa Claus. What you just said has taken years to come to light. So I want to say thank you to staff. I had threatened to bring some alcohol up here in the form of a champagne bottle, but and there's times that probably some alcohol would work well on this dais, but
there isn't enough of it.
well, that is true. I refrained from doing that. I was going to bring some poppers, but the smell and the rubbish that those things create, I did not want to have to clean up. But I do want to say thank you behalf of the citizens that have lived there. I know Gary lived over in that area and was promised this years ago. And others have also heard that. So I just want to say thank you to staff and the ability for us to be able to do this. It's not a small feat to spend the kind of money that we are, doing. But I know that many people who are in that area use those roads are going to be saying thank you to all of us. So James and your team, thank you for an excellent report. And it's an honor to have the chance to move this. So that's all I have to say, Mayor.
Okay, anybody else have any questions or?
I have one quick question.
Oh, go, Michael.
James, thank you for your presentation. The piping that's going to be used is the standard piping, or are we going to use in the extruded?
We will use the duct iron pipe.
Standard?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, then I'll bring it back. We have a motion by Mendel Thompson and a second by Michael.
Say yes for you.
Say
Yes.
Say yes.
What
The motion
Items
is
1
for-
through
to approve all
6.
6 items.
Oh, yes, all 6.
I will now conduct an oral roll call vote. Councilmember Ellis,
Yes.
Councilmember Davis,
Yes.
Councilmember Freendahl,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Thompson,
Yes.
Mayor Boyer.
Yes,
Motion carries 5-0.
thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, item number 11, award a contract for pedestrian enhancement at the elementary schools, HSIP Cycle 9, Plan Number 1318 to FS Contractors, Inc. in the amount of $453,800. Assistant City Manager Moises Lopez. Welcome, Moises.
Thank you, Mayor. What would have worked too is not a champagne bottle or a popper, but maybe a little woo-woo. Celebratory nonetheless.
Oh, just wait till it's finished.
Right on.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Well, as the mayor mentioned, the item before you entails several pedestrian-oriented enhancements at or near several schools that are situated throughout our community. 4 elementary school, public elementary schools and 1 private elementary school will benefit from these projects. Those are listed on the screen. It is Cullen Elementary, Sellers Elementary, La Fetra Elementary, Stanton Elementary, and Hope Lutheran School. In total, the project will make improvements to 18 different locations around the school's vicinity. We're talking about improvements that include upgrading our curb ramps to become ADA compliant. We're extending curbs in some locations to make that travel distance a little bit shorter for the kids that are walking to school alongside their parents. We're installing some high visibility crosswalks, some enhanced signage and pavement markings, pedestrian countdown buttons to let folks know how much time they have to cross the street. Lead pedestrian intervals. This actually delays the time in which a car can move into the intersection until after the pedestrians have started moving into that intersection so that they're more visible to the drivers and hopefully promote a little bit more safety, as well as no passing center lines close to intersections. As is noted in your staff report, the project was initially approved by the city council as part of the fiscal year 1920 budget. The city submitted this project for funding through the Highway Safety Improvement Program Cycle 9 grant. Following award of that grant and the subsequent extended review by Caltrans, the project was issued to solicit bids first in November of 2022 and then subsequently in December of 2022. The city did receive 1 responsive proposal at that particular time by FS Contractors. Pending tonight's city council consideration, staff anticipates that construction will last approximately 45 days. Although we know that construction activities can be very disruptive, we want to make sure that we don't infringe upon school operations. So we're working with a selected vendor to complete this project within a very defined window of time. That would be between July 1 and August 7th. I should note that we've been working with our colleagues at the school district, keeping them informed of the progress that we're making on this project and coordinating with them to the extent that we possibly can. Approximately $513,000 has been allocated to this project through a combination of HSIP and Measure M funds, and taking into account the responsive bid as well as the normal contingency, there is sufficient funding available to complete this project. And with that, staff is recommending that City Council approve the plans and specifications, that we award the contract to FS Contractors, that you authorize the city manager or designee to execute the agreement, and then authorize the Public Works Director to execute any necessary change orders. That concludes my presentation.
Appreciate it, Moises. Bring it back. Any questions, comments? Michael, go.
Moises, thank you for your presentation. How come out of 19 folks that pulled plans, we only received 1 back?
Federal grant money has a lot of strings tied to it. One of the reasons that we had to rebid the proposal was that there was missing information from the responsive bidder. So we actually had to work with that responsive bidder to get the documentation that they're required to submit as part of that grant application. So it's not a small administrative burden for them.
So it's across the board. The other, I guess, 18 folks, they didn't submit anything, or they submitted it was incomplete?
Let me provide a little clarity. The 18 locations we're talking about are where the improvements are going to occur. That doesn't mean that we received 18 separate bids or responsive bidders. We only received 1 responsive bidder that's going to do the work at all 19 locations. So we packaged all of them together.
Right, but how many folks pulled the bid package? I thought I read somewhere around 19.
Remember that, Malia? Oh, 19 plan holders, you're correct. Apologies.
No worries. So how come out of the 19, we only received 1? Was there any issues with how we put the proposal out there, or?
The proposals were reviewed by the contractors or companies which don't specialize in this type of job. So we approached the individual plan holders in the first instance and then find out that they just pulled it, reviewed it, and found it that it's not interest to them.
Okay, so we didn't receive any that we deemed incomplete.
We did.
We did.
We did.
Okay, so we disqualified them.
That's correct.
Yeah,
So-
because that was
Yeah.
not.
How many of those we disqualified out of the 19?
1.
1?
There was only 1 responsive bidder in the November issuance That will happen to be FS Contractor, or excuse me, there's only one respondent to the November solicitation that happened to be FS Contractors. They were determined not to be responsive because they were missing documentation. So when we went out to bid again in December, they completed the package and included the missing information. So we have one responsive bidder.
And just as a side note, Gentry Brothers, because I was approaching different contractors and Gentry Brothers promised me that they will submit the bid. And they were almost about to do it, but something happened on their end and they were not able to submit the bid. So maybe we could have 2 bidders, but that tells that this type of project, time restraint, was not very appealing to the contractors.
Okay, all right, thank you very much.
Okay, anybody else? I do just have one question. We're doing a lot of work here and remember we recently did a test project down at Washington School and that's not part of this. Could you speak to where that might be in the works?
Sure. Actually, as part of the mid-year budget action that you took at your last meeting, you approved money to design that permanent project at that location. Our hope is to get the design complete, and program it as part of your upcoming 2-year budget so that we can actually construct that the latter part of this calendar year. I'd also be remiss if I didn't mention some other work that we've identified along Gladstone Avenue where where we have several other schools that were identified as part of the local streets road safety plan for improvements. We've actually submitted grant applications for those improvements and expect to hear back but hopefully by the end of this month.
Okay, I appreciate it. Thank you. Okay, well, at this point, we have a motion by Mayor Pro Tem Thompson and a second by Councilmember Friednall. I'd ask it everybody vote.
I will conduct an oral roll call vote. Councilmember Ellis,
Yes.
Councilmember Davis,
Yes.
Councilmember Freendahl,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Thompson,
Yes.
Mayor Boyer,
Yes.
motion carries 5-0.
Okay, well, that brings us to the end of our agenda. Bring it back. Anybody got closing
I'd just
comments?
like to wish everybody a happy St. Patrick's Day on Friday. And just to let you know, this is called Seafoam Green, okay?
Seafoam.
Seafoam Green. So you gave me
Okay.
a little bit of hard time this morning and this beginning of this. Whatever blows your skirt up.
Okay, Randall, anything?
In honor of Mr. Wood, let me just say his famous 3 words, moving right along.
Moving right along.
So we're moving right along.
Okay, anybody else? Well, with that, I would like to adjourn our meeting in memory of Dennis Willett and Fred McGehee and appreciate the passion that they've always had for our community. With that, we are adjourned at 9:10